Hello and welcome to Reach the Masses podcast, the show about two friends who talk about the pulp culture that they love. I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.
Today's episode, we will be going over the second season of Buffy. We will also be talking about the second episode of American Gods. And to wrap up, we will end the episode talking about one of our favorite TV shows, Doctor Who. This is our second episode. We got the first one up. There have been some hiccups in getting it uploaded, but it's getting there.
And it is available on Google and on
SoundCloud. We have it on SoundCloud. It probably will not continue on SoundCloud. I was unaware that for free users, they only give you so many minutes, and then that's all you get. So if we want to continue this as a weekly podcast, we will definitely run out of those minutes quickly, and it would probably be best if we just try to find another avenue. I'm still trying to upload it to iTunes. However, the first episode was a very interesting editing. I have done edits before, and this was the first one where I had texted you several times
yes.
about how many times we said the word
and yeah, because apparently I'm a yeah sayer.
And I'm a sayer. There you go.
You have to love those verbal pauses.
Every time there was a lull or a pause, I would say or Heather would say yeah. So what I did I just showed Heather the edit that I did, and it was very much cut up, very much, and it was very funny. There you go. I just did it again. I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, you totally said
In the editing process of that, this podcast is something that we both want to do. I think it's something that we are both getting into. I'm enjoying doing it, but in the grand scheme of things, we're on the very much the fly for this second episode. We are under the gun to get this recorded so we could do it on the weekly process that we're trying to set up for it.
Absolutely. So we apologize in advance for our scatterbrainness, which I'm sure is going to shine through.
This episode will be possibly a little scatterbrained. I agree. Look, this is something we want to do for fun, and we hope you all are enjoying it, and we still want to hear from you. We want to get your comments. But both of us are full-time. We have jobs. We have other lives. We want to do this for you, and we are happy to keep doing it. But there may be some conflicts here and there that will need to be tweaked as we go along.
That, and we're still learning. I mean,
we're
not
true.
Experts in digital recording, putting things out there for people. So, I mean, we're still new. It's okay. We're not going to apologize too much for it, but maybe just a little.
And again, we're on Twitter. After you hear an episode, shout out to us. We also have a Gmail account. It's Reach the Mass, just MAS, @gmail.com. If you all could reach out to us there, if you have any questions, or just give us a compliment, or give us some praise, give us some constructive criticism, what we need to do, what we don't need to do. Okay, all that disclaimer aside, let's jump into Buffy Season 2.
But this is just going to be the final 2 episodes of Buffy.
Well, I have some facts.
Oh, did you? You went farther.
I did a little bit more research.
Okay,
yes.
I see how it is now. You're gonna show me up at the last minute.
some interesting factoids that you might like to know just looking through it. Is in the history of the show, this one is a very much, this is, I think I said in the last podcast, this is my favorite season of Buffy.
Yes.
Because there are so many staples that come out from this season. The first season was just getting to know the characters, kind of laying that foundation. But this is where they hit the ground running because they know the characters and they're able to introduce people, and it just feels very fluid. This is the introduction of Oz, the werewolf. I guess I should back up just a tiny bit. As I said before in the last one, anything that we're discussing will be spoiler related. So if you do not want to be spoiled, I will try to give you an update on what we're discussing. If you don't want to be spoiled about Buffy season 2, go ahead and fast forward to the next part. If you have already seen it and want to join the discussion, please listen forward. This was the introduction of Oz, who is... He's not a werewolf.
No, that comes later.
It comes later, but he
Yeah.
eventually becomes... he has been a werewolf, but it's not known.
No, actually, his cousin, I think his toddler cousin bit him on the finger, and that's where they implied that he started having the whole lycanthropy issues.
So he wasn't a werewolf when he first came on
No,
the show?
he wasn't, no.
Okay. But he's there, and he starts showing interest in...
The lovely Willow.
Played by Allison Hannigan. This also introduces us to a vampire couple of Spike and Drew.
Yes. Probably one of the best couples on the show. At least one of the funnest couples on the show.
Their arc, their main arc that kind of establishes them right out the gate is the first half of that season.
Yeah.
That introduces their dynamic and just how they work, and it's Spike is introduced as a major threat because he has killed 2 other Slayers previously.
One during the Chinese Revolt?
And then the other one in New York in the 70s.
Yes.
So I have that. They have that. They start the tradition of the Halloween episode. That's the one where the costumes that they wear, they become the costumes that they're
Yes.
wearing.
So fantastic.
So Buffy is dressed up because she wants to try to be like a woman that would be oppressed with Angel. Their relationship is growing, and she wants to dress up like an 18th century woman. So obviously, when the spell kicks in, she thinks and acts and is a woman of 18th century. This episode has probably influenced us more than anything because anytime we do a costume contest, we go to Comic-Con, we reference that like, okay, we choose our costumes.
Every time. And based on whether or not, if we turn into them, whether or not we'll be safe or not and able to kick ass.
Because one of the issues is that Xander, who doesn't have, throughout most of the series, feels like he's not a major...
He's inadequate. He doesn't have anything special about him.
Major player in the episode, in this series. So he's dressed up like an army person, and so he is very much the gung-ho fighting person in this episode. And the funny thing about this is that Buffy, who wants to be normal, she thinks Halloween's going to be the best ever because she finds out that demons and vampires and all those things takes Halloween off because they think it's too...
too gauche.
Too gauche.
Yeah, too on the nose for them to, cause trouble on Halloween.
It's a little bit too much on the nose for a demon to cause a bunch of trouble on Halloween. So they usually take that day off. But what the Halloween episode, the person that's doing it, goes back into the other comments that I have is where it goes back to this season leads into Giles, the Watcher, the first inklings of the Ripper, of his past in England, and him being a sorcerer, wizard.
Yeah, him having dabbled in some black arts himself.
Black magic, yes. Because the previous one before that is called Lie to Me, and that's where it's first mentioned that his past about the Ripper. And then there's the Halloween. No, I'm sorry. The Halloween is the first Giles reference to the Ripper. And then there's Lie to Me, which has more about the history of Giles. This is also Giles' relationship with the character that was introduced in the first season, Jenny Calendar, who is a descendant of the Gypsies.
That cursed angel soul.
that
Cursed angel with a soul.
She is, her and Giles's relationship continues to grow and mature. That's part of it. And then this is just an interesting one. I forgot all about it. There's an episode early on in season 2 called Ted, and it has John Ritter
Yeah, I
in
remember
it
that episode.
as
Yeah.
someone that's dating Buffy's mom, and just
Dating Joyce.
dating Joyce. The John Ritter sadly is no longer with us, so it just took me aback. I totally forgot that he was even in that episode.
Yeah.
And he was in Buffy, and it was just that was a nice find, I guess, while I was looking at season 2 again. The big shakeup, I guess, would be the mid-season, because we mentioned that Buffy kind of is like a big bad at the end, and there's standalone episodes that lead to that. However, with this one, they kind of do like a mid-season issue, because Spike and Drew are trying to put together this judge character, and the first episode is called Surprise, and the way it ends is with Buffy and Angel finally hooking up.
Yeah, they finally get a little grindy, get a little pelvic action going on.
And once they do, that obviously is a moment of pure happiness
Yeah.
for Angel, and that was part of the conditions of his curse, is that if he ever experienced a moment of true happiness, that his soul would leave him and he would become a full vampire again and be Angelus, is what he would refer to
Right.
himself as. There's Angel and then there's Angelus.
Which leads to one of my all-time favorite scenes in any television show, and that's where post-coitus he walks outside and there's a woman smoking a cigarette, and he is now a bad vampire again, and he bites her.
Oh,
And then he
yes.
comes up from drinking her blood and blows out
The
the
smoke.
smoke that she had just inhaled, which, I mean, physically that's not actually going to happen.
But in the
it's
world,
so cool. It's
it-
just a cool moment.
Very cool visual moment.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of interesting, because Angel's couple hundred years old at this point, correct?
Yes.
And Buffy just turned 17.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a controversy, I guess, when we're watching it. When you're little, younger, as a teenager, you don't really think about it that much. But she's underage and he's a couple hundred years old. It's kind of creepy when you think about it in that context, that he's macking and having sex with a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
But
That's something that I would want my 17-year-old child to do.
you would or wouldn't?
Would not.
Okay, I was getting ready.
No.
I was about to stop the podcast because I was going to be concerned.
No.
But that leads into Angelus taking over the second season. The next episode is Innocent, and with the judge, and then them fighting Angelus, and then Angelus is a whole nother baddie villain, because he's not just. They kind of gave you the contrast of Spike in the first half of the season, was very much come at you, fight you.
In the moment, wants to cause trouble. He doesn't have like this long game plan.
And Angelus is very much the opposite. He's manipulating, goes for the underbelly of the emotions, and
Yeah. And he plays the long game, and he wants to end the planet, basically.
And
Which comes into play in the last 2 episodes of the season in
We'll-
a big way.
we'll get there, because you're going to take over there because you did all the research on those two. I may chime in every now and again, but that goes into Angelus's main psychological manipulation of trying to get Buffy. I think in that first episode that he's Angelus, like they're fighting, and he pretends to be like he's Angel again, and she stops, and he seizes that moment to attack her. But the biggest moment is what happens with Miss Calendar. Jenny Calendar is in the episode Passion. He kills her because he finds out that she's trying to re-soul him, tries to find the spell from her ancestors to give him back his soul. And he finds out, he kills her, and then he doesn't just kill her. He does torture on Giles. He sets up his room.
He sets up Giles. No, it's Giles's bedroom.
Okay, because I didn't know if he was banned from there, because in the world of Buffy, they have to be invited in. Those are the
Yes.
rules. And then once if they find out he's bad, they do some sort of magic where he'd have to be reinvited on all their homes. So I didn't know if he had been
For whatever reason, they skipped Giles's house. I guess
okay.
just so they could
have that moment.
Yeah, have that moment with the devastation of what he did with Jenny Calendar's body.
Right. So Giles comes back. There's petals on the floor. I mean, there's elaborate.
No one knows she has died at this point.
Right.
Angel chases her through the high school, and then in a very climactic moment breaks her neck at the top of the steps.
And that's another good workaround because she's wondering how is he in the school because they did the exact same thing of you have to be invited, but on the outdoor bulletin board or something it was Latin for
everyone
welcome who seeks knowledge.
Yes.
And he was seeking knowledge, so he was able to come in. It was like a loophole, very clever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
one of those clever Joss Whedon things.
Exactly. And then he goes to this elaborate setting up a date type situation, and then she's on the bed. Giles comes in and sees her dead, and then that's when Giles has this moment, which we will see later on with other characters, of this pain of losing someone and going after the person. He has this awesome Giles moment where he goes to the warehouse where they're at, and he takes this bat, or there's a piece of 2x4.
Yeah.
It's on fire, and he takes it and starts beating Angel. He doesn't care anymore. He's just going after him because of what he did. And Buffy has to come and rescue Giles more than anything from himself.
It fleshes out his character a lot more, and helps you come to understand that he does have a background, and he hasn't always been this, stiff upper lip English guy.
Between that and with the stuff about the Ripper and his past in England, I think he gets a lot more filling out character-wise than
it's background filling out. It's not like character development throughout the show. Because he is the older character, so he's not going through the growing pains that these younger characters are. He's already experienced some of this and has led this life.
We also get introduced to another Slayer,
played by Bianca Lawson,
because of the incident in the season finale, season 1, where Buffy dies. The rules are Slayer every generation. Just her dying, even though she comes back, that's enough to kickstart the Slayer selecting the next generation of Slayer. And so there is a new Slayer, and she comes and helps Buffy throughout the second season.
Yes.
And then that will lead us to the final 2 episodes.
Yes, the fantastic best episodes of any season of Buffy, in my opinion. They were my favorite, and they were also narrated, which was a big change with Buffy because they didn't do a lot of narration, especially by a character who wasn't already completely involved with the show and who wasn't established.
Because this is Whistler?
Whistler, yeah.
Did you rewatch these for this podcast?
I
did you
did.
rewatch them? Okay, I didn't get to. I'm going from my memory, so
Yeah. It opens in Galway, actually, in Ireland, which was, I guess, where Angel was from, and I didn't realize that.
Okay.
But that's a huge thing right now because there's a song called Galway Girl out right now that people are listening to. And I was like, hey, those things relate. Look at that. But you find that Angel was just a drunk kid, basically, is how he lived his life.
So
going to pubs and
pre-vampire.
Yeah, going
Angel.
to pubs and causing trouble was what he did.
And you also get some of his backstory with his little sister. Mm-hmm. Isn't she the one that names him Angel, or was he already? Because his name was.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Because isn't that part of it? Because she thought he was an angel when he came back from the dead.
Yes.
And that's where he got Angelus from.
Probably so, would be my guess, but that's not in these 2 episodes.
Okay.
I think
So it's not in the. So
Yeah.
that might be in the spin-off series.
Yeah, I think.
Because they do that in Angel. They go back to the well a couple of times with Angel and get more of his backstory. So that's probably where we're getting a little confused. But
Yes.
I gave you the spoiler warning in advance, so sorry.
And this is where you also see the return of Darla, and you find out that Darla was the one who made Angel.
Darla
then-
was the one in season 1.
Yes, in the pilot
pilot
episode, who
episode.
dies in the pilot. But then it moves on, and through the flashbacks in these episodes, you find out how Drew, which was part of the tag team of Spike and Drusilla, how she was created, and Angel first drove her crazy when
That's
she
right.
she came into confession because she was a good Catholic girl. And then he told her a bunch of terrible things as a priest. And she already had visions. So then
Yes, because that's the thing. I guess we never mentioned with Drew. She's not,
she's not just a vampire.
and she's weak. Something's wrong with her.
In the beginning,
In the
when
beginning.
she and Spike come to town, that's one of the reasons they came to town.
Right, and then with the incident with the judge, Spike gets injured, and Drusilla becomes whole because she's fine.
Yeah, she
After
pulls
the
him
second
up out of
half
the
with
church after
Angelus.
that church collapses on them.
Okay,
And that's how Spike gets a spinal injury and ends up in a wheelchair.
for a while.
Yeah.
While he's healing,
But
and that leads into a team up between Buffy and not Buffy and Angel, Buffy and Spike,
yes,
because Spike is jealous of because Drew is spending more time with Angelus and having more fun with him, and he wants his because Spike just sees Drusilla as a object or my possession. He loves her in
Yeah.
the sense that she's mine.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and in his mind, like, Spike tends to fixate on women anyway. And he fixated on the woman whenever he was just William, whenever he was alive. He lived with his mother and fixated on this girl that he was in love with but never could talk to because apparently he was the geeky guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drusilla turned him and he started fixating on her. And then after Drusilla, it became Buffy. Buffy became his fixation.
Okay, so what is the storyline for the 2-part episode? It's because the final 2 episodes are becoming 1 and 2.
Yes.
So what is the overall storyline for those 2 episodes?
The arc is Angel wants to end the world. He finds a demon that had been turned to stone who
An
was
apocalypse.
going to...
He wants an apocalypse. He wants an apocalypse level. He wants to end the world, not
Yeah,
just
he wants
like...
to put it back to the demon dimension.
Okay.
And the demon's called a Cathala. So he finds this demon who'd been turned to stone by some knights.
And he's got a sword stuck in his
Yes.
chest. Kind of like King Arthur's sword in the stone.
Yeah,
type thing.
and Giles knows how to get a Cathala to come alive. Angel does not. Angel ends up torturing Giles to find out this answer, and then
Drusilla is the one that gets him to discuss it because...
she uses her magic and
Makes him think.
becomes Jenny Calendar.
Right.
And that's how Giles ends up, after all this torture, he ends up telling what needs to be done.
Now, is it the part? I think it's part 1 where Drusilla also has. I mean, Drusilla really comes into her own in
Yeah,
these last 2
absolutely,
episodes, because at the end of episode 1 is where she kills the second Slayer
She does, yes.
with a weird hypnotizing.
Yeah, she hypnotizes her, and then she uses her fingernail and slices her throat.
So-
And that's one of the best scenes ever. And then it goes to slow motion. Buffy starts running in,
Because then Buffy gets framed for
murdering the Slayer, which the cops don't know it's a Slayer. They just think it's some random girl.
right? Because she's from Kenya. That's the other thing. Because she has Kenya or South America. She has some sort of accent.
I thought she was Jamaican.
Maybe Jamaican. Okay, she has an accent. Sorry. I'm gonna have to look that up while you. Okay, keep going. I'm gonna look that up.
Okay. This was also where we see Joss Whedon come back in. He wrote and directed this episode.
I did look that up on IMDb, and this Becoming Part 2 has the highest IMDb score. Out of 10, it's a 9.5. So I mean,
That
the
doesn't
whole
surprise me
the
at
whole
all.
season is 8s and 9s. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 that's maybe like a 7.
Yeah.
But the whole seasons are 8s and 9s, 9.2, 9.1.
It really is, not just in our opinion, but in many people's opinions, the best season of Buffy. In this episode, Willow is also trying to re-insult Angel because she and Buffy are studying in Jenny Calendar's classroom, and they find the spell that will re-insult him.
And that's another building thing about the characters. That's kind of Willow's first introduction to magic.
She's dabbled in the black arts, as she calls them, but this is her first truly big spell.
You were right. I apologize. Kendra Young is the Slayer, and she is from Jamaica.
Jamaica, yeah. I was gonna say I'm no accent expert, but
And
that
maybe
one's fairly distinctive.
maybe Kendra and Kenya. That's just where I got.
Where you got stuck,
I knew it was a different accent. I apologize in advance
or in post,
for any
as it were.
for any Jamaicans that take offense to me calling her South African or Kenyan. That's how the episode 1 ends. Well, becoming.
Episode 2 brings in Buffy in LA for the first time. We see how she got her start, and we see it through the eyes of Angel, because Whistler is the one who gets Angel to clean up and not eat a rat once a month,
Right.
as it were, because Angel, after he became ensouled, became tortured for all the people he'd killed. Because he killed a massive amount of people over that amount of time.
And they were wanting, actually, originally, when they did the spinoff for Angel, they were wanting with the actor who played Whistler to be
Doyle?
Doyle, to fill the role of Doyle and be Whistler, but, as the Doyle character,
Yeah.
to fill that role of his sidekick who gets visions. And the actor had other commitments and couldn't. So that's why.
I was going to ask you about that.
And that's why they had to come up with Doyle, his character, because the actor who was Whistler couldn't
Couldn't
commit.
do it. Max Perlich is his name.
Oh, okay, the actor.
Yeah, that played Whistler.
Okay, so we kind of jumped around a little bit. The whole Giles being tortured and getting the answer, that was in actually episode 2.
Yes.
And come to find out, the ritual to free him was that Angel needed to use his own blood instead of the blood of others.
He was the key for that. So he pulls out the sword from Akathla's heart.
And start of episode 2 is where Spike comes to Buffy and states he wants to get his, I will leave you alone. He makes a deal with her. I'll be there. I'll be your inside guy. I'll help you as long as at the end you let us live.
You let Drew and I go.
Right.
And this also leads to some of that great Buffy comedy. Whenever she ends up having to take Spike back to her house, because at this point she's on the run because the cops are chasing her because they think she killed that girl and then she knocked out that other cop. So she is running, and Spike comes in and saves the day and knocks another cop out, and then she has to go. And this is also where
Doesn't she have to stop him because he was going to kill them?
Yeah, eventually he was like, "Yeah, hang on, let me kill this guy." And she clears her throat loudly and was like, "Oh, sorry." But then she takes him home, and this is where Joyce really finds out and comes to believe that Buffy is the Slayer. And because prior to that, Joyce had knew Buffy had gotten in trouble, but she didn't know why she had gotten in trouble. Right. And a vampire attacks them and tries to go after Joyce, and Buffy and Spike fight the vampire and kill him, and then they go in and are talking, and Spike at one point is hanging behind Joyce and making vampire-like faces at Buffy.
So in the middle of all the chaos and there's an apocalypse coming, that's where Josh Whedon
brings in the levity.
Brings in the laughs and really just hits home. And if you haven't discovered it, that's where he shines. He will kill the characters you love and then make you laugh about it. Well, not laugh about the death, but he'll make you laugh, and then he'll be tearing your heart out the next moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what he's good at.
So Buffy has to try to stop Angel. Willow's in the hospital. She's wanting to. That's another funny moment I remembering, because she's like, "I want to do the spell." Xander's trying to talk her out of it, and she goes, "This is my stern face."
Yes. Yes.
And so she starts doing it.
This is also where we find out Xander can be deceptive. He does a bad thing.
Because he lies.
And not only does he lie, he withholds the information from Buffy that Willow is awake and trying to re-ensoul him. He just tells Buffy that Willow said to kick Angel's ass.
Right.
Which was totally not cool, and never really, everybody else kind of pays for the shitty things they do in this show. Mm-hmm. But Xander always, other than getting his eye poked out, he never really pays for the sins he commits. Other people end up paying for the sins he commits, but he never really does. Which always had me questioning his existence. I never understood why his character always got out of
those
yeah
predicaments.
yeah
But so Willow's trying to insult Buff. I mean, Willow's trying to insult Buffy. Willow is trying to get Angel his soul back. Buffy is going to fight Angel. They have the climactic fight at the end. She has her sword. He has the sword from the demon that he pulled out of. They're fighting, and that's one of the best moments of Buffy, where but Angel's winning. He's got her without the sword, and he's like, "Without your friends, without this, what do you have?" And he tries to stab her, and she claps and grabs the sword and
yeah.
says, "Just me." And then she goes after him and starts kicking and punching and all that fun
she
stuff.
whoops his ass is what
Basically,
she does.
yes. And right at the moment where she's getting ready to kill him, because that's the thing, is that once
Akathala's mouth is starting to open, the portal's swirling, and then Willow's spell
kicks in.
and works.
And then this is where he goes for the jugular, who have your emotional beats.
Yeah. Angel has no memory. Once he's re-ensouled, he doesn't remember like the things that had happened. It all comes back to him slowly.
Because as soon as he sees her, he's immediately back into, "Oh my gosh, you're bleeding," because her hand was cut, or, and then Buffy's like, "You're back," and they have this big hug. And then as they're hugging, she sees the mouth opening and sees the portal opening, and she
Yeah.
realizes what she has to do.
She brings the sword up and
Stabs him.
right in the gut.
And then that was the key to closing the portal. And then it takes Angel,
It sucks him in.
sucks him in, and
And
it closes. And then it ends with all the Scoobies, all the gang together, minus Buffy saying she must have done it. Willow saying it felt like it worked.
Yeah. And she must have saved the world, Oz said, because look at it.
We're still here.
Yeah.
And it ends with the Sarah McLachlan song. Winter is cold
And bitter.
and bitter. Yeah. It ends with that very touching song as Buffy is leaving Sunnydale. But it ends with that Sarah McLachlan song as she's on a bus heading out of Sunnydale, because of it just totally wrecked her to having to get Angel back at the last minute, the man she loves, and then having to kill him to save the world. And that's how season 2 ends. And it ends bittersweetly, because yes, she saved the day, but she still lost in the end, because she's still technically, in all regards, being hunted by the police. She saved the day, but she killed the man she loves. It ends very bittersweetly. And the Sarah McLachlan song was full of grace.
Which will rip your heart out, whether you've watched Buffy or not.
It's a great song. You should listen to it in general, even before you. And I think that's one of the first seasons, growing up, where the music really tied well in with the finale, and just
That's another thing Joss Whedon did, is he kind of created that. Him and Dawson's Creek, like the CW, they really jump-started that whole popular music in popular shows.
Yes, because later on, and they did it some in season 2 with the Bronze, they brought in bands, like actual bands.
K-Choice, Cibo Mato, like they had some great bands on there. Amy Mann was on there at one point.
That you normally probably wouldn't have the opportunity at that time, as far as mainstream music goers have an opportunity to listen to, as opposed to now, where it's online and you can find anything.
Pandora, Spotify, all those.
Yeah, people are podcasting now over things like pop culture that they love, and I mean, you got to think back. This was in 1997, 98.
98.
So the internet wasn't the internet as we know it, and this was a great opportunity for bands who you may not have ever heard of unless you were in those major cities.
Big cities, yeah.
To hit it before they hit it big, to hear some of these bands.
Right.
But I mean, again, just the way it ends, just the whole character arcs, almost everybody shines throughout the whole second season. That's why it's one of my favorite seasons.
Absolutely. It's a great season, and those 2 episodes still just, I still go back and watch just those 2 episodes because they're just that enjoyable. And if you're sad, they help with your sadness. And if you're happy, they'll make you sad.
So that will wrap it up for the season 2. Again, let us know in the comments, email us, tweet at us. Is it not the right word? Again, I'm learning Twitter, so tweet at us.
Tweet us.
Do you want us to continue on with Buffy, continue on season 3? Or do we want to just mix it up? Because we're kind of adding more stuff and we want to try to keep it down. The first episode was an hour and 45 minutes. We kind of got away from us. So we're still learning, like we said. We're trying to keep it around an hour, thereabouts. But again, if it's something that you all want to hear and to talk about and discuss, we're more than happy to keep it on there. So just, again, let us know if you want us to continue on with season 3 of Buffy. So that will bring us up to the next part, which will be American Gods, episode 2.
Chalk it all up to occupational hazard.
I didn't mean to wake you.
Laura, they told me you died.
Who said I died?
I think I'm losing my mind. We are done here. We will rendezvous in Chicago.
What's in Chicago?
My hammer.
I guess we could just kind of hit the highlights. We did a pretty good in-depth review of American Gods the first episode. We kind of did a play-by-play. I know you took a lot more notes on this than I did, so if you want to kind of...
Well, there were so many things in this episode. I took a lot of notes. Not just a little bit of notes, but a lot of notes.
Well, go for it.
Okay. Let's see. The impact of Anansi's speech.
Right.
Him on the slave boat, being prayed to. And he is a storytelling god who often comes in the guise of a
All
spider.
stories are
Yeah.
Anansi stories.
Yeah.
Did you like the way they portrayed Anansi?
I did. We just seen him for, that amazing speech he gave telling these poor souls who were chained and being taken to a new world to live a horrible life of slavery. He basically told them the rundown of the next 200 years.
Right.
And told them to burn the boat. And they did, and it was
also
amazing.
But it was also for himself, because he mentions it as a self-sacrifice for worship for him.
Right, and
as an
of course,
altar,
well,
a worship for him, a
of course
sacrifice.
God is going to do that. I mean, that's
self-serving for
part
him.
of the God thing.
In the books, yes, that worship and power for him. Was it off-putting because he's wearing like a 3-piece like modern suit? So
I thought that was fantastic, and I thought it showed that these are gods. They're not just, people with magical powers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it also shows that we create oftentimes what we worship. Not always. But they are a reflection of us. And we as a modern audience would see him dressed that way. Whereas these people wouldn't have.
right.
But we come to understand him. And I'm sure as they develop his character, and if you've read Neil Gaiman's book that has him in it, then you know why he's dressed that way. You come to understand that that's part of his character.
Okay, so what else what stood out to you?
Shadow making the Billie Holiday song reference, "Strange Fruit," which was a song about the lynching of black people in the South, and he talks about himself being lynched in the previous episode, and he makes the comment like something about strange fucking fruit. And if you know that song, if you know that history, then you know what he's talking about, and I really enjoyed that personally. And then we see the bubble baths. Bubble baths are never really referenced in the show so far, but that was a big thing in prison. Whenever Shadow in the book was in prison,
Yeah,
they
and-
talked about bubble baths.
Yeah, he takes a bath after all that has happened to him, and if you hadn't read the book, it just looks like he's just taking a bath. So
yeah.
it's a little kind of like a thing,
A nod.
for the readers. Did you realize, how long did it take you to realize the I Love Lucy was Gillian Anderson.
It took me a solid 12 seconds because
Okay.
I was like, she's talking, it's Lucy. Wait a second, that's Gillian Anderson.
It took
Gillian
me
Anderson is Lucy.
it took me longer than I cared to admit.
Yeah.
I mean, she was really, and then
Because that could have been played by a nobody, but instead they bring in this actress who can play anything and play anyone.
it'd be different. It'd be interesting if they used, they did I Love Lucy, but if they bring her back, her playing one of her other characters that she's played in
That
TV,
would-
just to kind of play. I mean,
That would also be amazing.
but it
Like, a geek like
stars.
me
I
would
don't
totally
know.
love that.
I don't know the rights to the show that she's played in.
Absolutely.
But that would be great if she got to play some of her other
Yeah.
TV characters that she's portrayed as a TV person.
Yeah, somebody who's played many characters on different channels and even Netflix.
What else stood out?
This episode references lynching a lot.
Well, they're building into that mythos of
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, they
that's
just
coming in later.
yeah, it was just really it was lynching heavy. Let's see. Oh, and also Mr. Wednesday, whenever he sends Shadow on the shopping trip, where he runs into Lucy on the TV, he says something that reminded me of RuPaul, because RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? Well, Mr. Wednesday said, if you can't look out for yourself, how in the hell are you going to look out for me?
That's
Saying
what
that
he meant
Shadow should steal from him,
Yeah,
even though Shadow had just said, I won't steal from you.
yeah. Because Wednesday gives him money. He's like, money's tight right now. You're still going to get paid.
But here's $1,000.
And try to take no more than 5% at this. And he says, I'm not going to steal from you. And then that's where he makes that line. I love the episode overall. It continued. It was overall tremendous and great. And it's already renewed for a second season.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I even actually tweeted that.
That it's renewed.
Did you see the moment when they are at Chernobog's apartment in Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cloris Leachman's character is talking.
Who did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely, as usual. Anything she's in. But Wednesday and Shadow both have tea, and Shadow's in the background. Mr. Wednesday's in the foreground. And they both, something is said, and they both make the same expression, and both,
Take a drink.
yes, and
No,
they
I-
do it at exactly the same moment and exactly the same way. So that also hints at
Things that are going on later on
a
that
deep,
gets revealed.
Yes, a deeper relationship between them.
I think Ian McShane,
Yes.
the person playing Wednesday, if you've not had a chance to watch Deadwood, he's in that, and he is very good in that, and he's very much reminiscent of that character in the sense in that show he's more not gonna almost say disgusting, but he cusses more and he's more vile in the sense, but he still has that kind of like upper, like indignant
He's more
air
Yeah.
about him that you could see how he's taking parts of that character from Deadwood and infusing it into Wednesday.
Yeah.
I liked a lot about this episode. I think it moved along a lot quickly. The only thing that was that it didn't tell you anything that happened, how Shadow got out of the situation he was in. The episode 1 ended with him being hung and all those people dying. It didn't show you
Oh, it didn't reveal to you
how
the rope was
how the rope was cut and who killed all those people.
right.
But it's already showing that the gods and other things, because the TV mentions, the I Love Lucy character mentions, he's getting credit for it. Because she's like, they underestimated you. I won't underestimate you.
Yeah, she's really trying
'Cause
to
it got-
work her way in.
Because word got out that he killed, that he was the one that killed
all
those masked, faceless people that was beating him up at the end of the first episode. Still interested in the show?
Oh, absolutely.
Can't tell at all that you like the show.
No, I mean it doesn't reflect at all in my words or the notes that I take or
The tweets that you do. Or
that I love this show at all.
I'm very excited about the show. It just continues to impress.
Absolutely. I think it's only going to continue to do this, I believe.
Any other comments or other things that you saw that you just wanted to just shine a big light on of how
The
impressive-
music, they are doing an excellent job with picking the perfect songs for this. Any situation that has come up so far in these first 2 episodes, they have had the ideal music play.
And I guess that's a lot that we take for granted. And that's kind of what we said we loved about Buffy was how well if you can have a good story, and then that if you have a good music that goes along with it, it just elevates it to a
The score, absolutely.
another level. The soundtrack of the episode, or just the emotions and the feels that you have while watching it, it takes it up another notch. If you have a great soundtrack to that episode. So we will continue on with American Gods. We will move forward. The 3rd episode will be coming out this Sunday. I don't know how many episodes are in the first season, 10 or 12 usually.
Somewhere roughly in there.
Usually those Stars or basic cable network shows are usually half run of major networks are usually 22, 23, and then like AMC and
Stars, HBO, Showtime.
Those are usually 10 to 13 episodes based on just the budget. It's, cheaper to do 13 episodes as opposed to that. And then, some complaints you may have with major networks is that there's too many filler episodes in a 23 episode season.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be just thrown away. That they don't.
If it's not
anything.
done right, it grinds the season to a halt. And usually if you're at 12 or 13 and the pace is a lot more brisk and you get a lot more action, the beats happen a lot quicker.
And we are, a modern society, so we don't have long attention spans.
That's true. Netflix has the whole season out. I'm excitingly anticipating House of Cards. Season starts May 30th, but Netflix, they release the whole season the day of, so you don't have to wait a week at a time.
Yep, I just binged Sense8 season 2.
Yes,
Very
you told me
exciting.
about that I will need to watch it.
Yes, you need to watch it. Absolutely.
Well, that will wrap up American Gods for this part of it. I tell you what, we can save Doctor Who for episode 3 because there's a lot that I don't want to if we're wanting to try to keep it at an hour or below, we're close to an hour right now.
Well, and it's Doctor Who, so we have to do Doctor Who justice.
Exactly.
If we're going to sit around and chat about Doctor Who.
So we will put Doctor Who on the back burner, and we will make that episode 3. We will probably dedicate a lot of episode 3 to just Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
But in the meantime, if you want, tweet us, email us, who's your favorite Doctor, old or new Who. We will probably stick more with since 2005, the 9th Doctor on. Those will probably who we will discuss the most. But tell us who's your favorite Doctor. Everyone has one.
Everyone has their Doctor.
And it's normally the first Doctor that you watch is typically who your Doctor is. And tell us, we're going to be discussing, how about this for next week? We will give our list of our, since 2005, so we're talking 9 Doctors, 9, 10, 11, 12. Out of those Doctors, we will rank those Doctors as our personal favorite to least favorite.
And we may even throw in the War Doctor just for fun.
That's true, the War Doctor. And then we'll do that as well for the companions, because he's had quite a few companions, and we can rank them. I did some of that beforehand, and we may have some discussion on who do we think is the better. I think we'll be more in line with the Doctors.
Yes.
As far as our number 1. I think on the companions we may differ a little bit on the order.
We probably will.
I enjoy some of the Doctor's companions more than others. But tweet us your favorite Doctor, favorite companion, and then tell us some of your favorite episodes or even moments, because that was one thing we were going to talk about was there's more moments that I like in Doctor Who
rather than
entire episodes. There are some great full episodes.
Oh, absolutely.
But there are things, just the example is the speech that the 12th Doctor gives during the invasion of the Zygons, the speech about war.
Absolutely. It's
That whole scene is just, the episode was good. Every episode of Doctor Who is watchable and good to great.
yes.
And that episode was okay and pretty good, but that whole scene made that episode. And I go online on YouTube and watch just those episodes, those scenes, those moments. So tell us some of your favorite moments that your Doctor or any Doctor that you watch that you like, because I mean every Doctor has that defining moment.
The Ninth Doctor, he had that scene where everybody lives.
Right.
When we're introduced to Captain Jack, and it's the end of World War II, and he wants everybody to live that the one time. And Chris Eccleston is not my favorite Doctor. The Ninth Doctor, I love him, but he's not my Doctor. But that scene, that is the essence of the Doctor. I believe in so many ways, because he wants everybody to live. How often does it happen? Not truly, but that often.
There was a thing
But
on
he
the
wants it.
on the internet. I don't know who to give credit to this, but I just found it funny. Was that episode was written by Stephen Moffat.
That's ironic.
That's what they pointed out, was the one episode where everyone lives was Stephen Moffat, and then after that he was right. Not everyone lives after
Yeah.
that was Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, Stephen Moffat's gonna kill anybody he thinks is gonna kill the viewer. He's gonna kill him.
I guess would you consider? I mean, I wouldn't say he would be the same level, but would Stephen Moffat be the England equivalent to Joss Whedon in the sense
in
that
so many ways, absolutely, I can see that.
I think
He goes for the gut and
he does
knows how to write a great episode and bring that levity in with drama and comedy, and he absolutely could be that.
I like Stephen Moffat, but there's something I think Joss Whedon is better in some regards.
Well, and he's American and he has more money
This
at
is
his
true.
disposal. Rather
You're
than,
right.
You have to take that into account.
This is true, but I don't know. That first season of Buffy and the second season of Buffy wasn't probably the highest budgeted.
Oh no, but I mean, it was new. It was a mid-season replacement.
Right. But we're going to wrap up the podcast for today. Tweet us or email us. Can you give us
The
the
Twitter is at Reach the Mass.
and the Gmail account is the same, reachthemass at gmail.com. So send us an email, tweet at us, give us your favorite Doctor, companion, and one of your favorite moments. And we'll talk about our favorite moments and episodes. If you have a favorite episode, we want to hear from you again and talk to you, because this is what this is about. We're talking about the pop culture we love, and we want to hear from you and get your input in on it as well. So signing off for Reach the Masses, I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.